Imagine the ocean not just as water, but as memory itself, an ancient, breathing archive older than stars, older than continents. Its surface glimmers under moonlight, whispering secrets humanity has long forgotten. You hear it softly in the distance, like a call from beyond the veil of time, drawing you closer to a mystery that is both alluring and impossible to define. Beneath the waves, darkness stretches infinitely, holding truths that no eye has ever seen and no mind has fully comprehended. The deep is a place where time bends. Seconds stretch into centuries, minutes collapse into eternities. Currents move like the quiet pulse of a sleeping giant, carrying with them remnants of civilizations that predate history. Listen closely, and you might hear the faint resonance of lost voices, carried across oceans by unseen hands. These are not the echoes of simple human activity, but something older, more profound in intelligence, submerged beneath layers of water, sediment, and forgotten years. Every wave breaking upon a distant shore is a sigh from the deep past, a reminder that we are not merely observers, but participants in a story older than memory itself. The ocean's surface mirrors the night sky, a fluid galaxy in motion, its mysteries reflected in the silent shimmer of moonlight on rolling tides. And yet, for all its beauty, there is a warning embedded in its rhythm. Knowledge is fragile, ephemeral, and easily lost. The abyss waits patiently, indifferent yet sentient, a guardian of wisdom both luminous and perilous. In this quiet, endless expanse, you begin to feel the presence of a civilization that may have existed before we ever set foot on this world. Its traces are subtle, a pattern in the sand, a hum within the current, the geometry of coral reefs that seem too precise to be natural. The ocean remembers everything, and sometimes it whispers those memories to those willing to listen. The air itself grows heavy with expectation, as if the planet is inhaling, holding its breath, preparing to reveal what it has carried for millennia. You may feel a shiver of recognition, a sense that somewhere deep beneath your consciousness lies a truth you have always known but could not name. It is a reminder of impermanence, a meditation on what is gained and lost with each passing epoch. Each ripple across the water's surface is a message, a cipher of existence, a puzzle meant to be felt rather than solved. The abyss does not rush, it waits, it beckons. And you, the listener, are drawn to it. Consider the depths as a mirror, reflecting not only the physical world, but the vast inner landscape of thought and memory. The ocean holds both creation and destruction, life and silence, knowledge and forgetting. And as you drift further into its enigmatic embrace, the boundary between self and sea blurs. You realize that to understand the ocean is to confront your own origins, the echo of atoms forged in stellar furnaces, the tide of history that courses through your veins. Here begins a journey not of certainty, but of wonder, a slow descent into a story written in waves, shadows, and echoes. The abyss is not empty. It is alive with thought, with memory, with questions. And though it may feel intimidating, it is also profoundly gentle. It teaches that silence is not absence, that darkness is not nothing, and that in the quiet folds of the deep, every secret waits patiently to be heard. Tonight, as you rest and let your thoughts drift, the ocean invites you to follow. It asks no immediate answers. It offers no haste, only the slow, hypnotic cadence of an eternal memory, older than any language, older than time itself. And in that patient unfolding, you feel the first stirrings of understanding, a quiet awareness that you are part of something infinitely larger, a story whispered from the depths, waiting for its listener, waiting for you. Before humans walked the earth, before language, before memory itself, the planet was a living, breathing entity of fire, water, and stone. The skies were molten, painted with streaks of red and gold, where lightning danced endlessly in silent storms. Oceans stretched without end, vast and unknowable, their surfaces shimmering like liquid mirrors reflecting the chaos and beauty of a world in formation. Time itself seemed to flow differently here, as if each moment were a tidal wave, carrying with it eons of creation. The continents drifted lazily, shaping and reshaping the surface of the world like thoughts coalescing in a dream. Mountains pushed upward, carved by invisible hands, while valleys yawned wide, waiting to be filled with water and life. Rivers coursed across the land, carrying sediments and minerals, whispers of an earth still learning to speak its own language. The wind, untouched by human presence, sang melodies older than memory, threading between volcanic peaks and over endless plains. In the quiet of these primeval landscapes, time moved like a tide. One moment could span centuries, one breath could feel like an eternity. The earth was awake, aware in ways impossible to measure, its surface alive with energy and potential. There was no need for light or shadow to tell a story. The very air, the vibration of the ground, the rhythm of the ocean, all spoke in a language of resonance and pulse. Beneath the waves, currents moved with a consciousness of their own. They carried minerals from the deep to the shallow, nutrients from volcanic vents to distant reefs, and the subtle whispers of emerging life. The ocean was a teacher, its lessons written in pressure and sound, in the dance of plankton and the slow migration of giant currents. Here, the first stirrings of ecosystems began to take shape, not by design, but by a natural rhythm that knew no haste. The atmosphere was thick with possibility. Clouds of mist and ash coiled in intricate spirals, shadows and light intertwined, like threads in an endless tapestry. Lightning flashed across skies colored with fire, painting brief but brilliant stories of energy and creation. Thunder rolled across mountains, a deep, resonant heartbeat that echoed through every rock and wave. The planet's voice was everywhere, subtle yet impossible to ignore, shaping the land, the sea, and the air in its own deliberate way. Imagine walking along the edge of a primeval ocean, feeling the heat of molten rock underfoot, hearing the distant roar of waves crashing against unseen cliffs. Smoke and steam rise in rhythm with the planet's breath, carrying scents of minerals, salt, and sulfur. Every step, every inhale connects you to a world older than imagination, a world untouched by the brief flicker of human presence. The silence here is profound, not empty, but full of anticipation and hidden knowledge. Even in this chaos, patterns emerge. Lava flows curve with an almost deliberate grace. River paths trace perfect arcs across jagged landscapes, and wind sculpts sand into endless dunes. These forms, appearing random yet purposeful, are the early signatures of a planet learning to hold memory. Each geological formation, each ocean current, carries stories older than humanity, encoded in shape, movement, and resonance. Time in this ancient earth is not linear. It folds in on itself, layers of reality stacked like sediment, waiting to be uncovered by those willing to listen. The continents remember where they once were. The oceans remember the storms they have borne, and the wind remembers the songs it has carried across ages. Standing here, you are both witness and participant, a fleeting consciousness brushing against a deep, eternal awareness. And then, amidst all this vastness, life begins its quiet, unnoticed stirrings. Single cells float in hidden pools, microscopic yet significant. Chemical reactions spark in volcanic vents. Oceans teem with the potential of creation. There is no rush, no urgency, only the patient unfolding of existence, a slow rhythm that stretches across millennia. This world is ancient, fast, and alive in ways the human mind can scarcely grasp. As night falls on this ancient earth, the skies darken not with stars, but with the reflection of molten clouds on endless waters. Shadows stretch across continents, and the ocean glows faintly, holding the memory of countless cycles of creation and decay. Time continues its slow, hypnotic dance, shaping and reshaping the world with a patient hand. And in the stillness, you begin to sense the first whispers of civilizations that might one day rise, hints of structures yet to be built, echoes of knowledge waiting beneath the waves and mountains. Here, in this primeval world, the stage is set. The earth itself is the first storyteller, and its story is written in water, stone, air, and fire. To listen is to be part of that narrative, to float within its rhythms, and to feel the pulse of a planet that remembers everything, even before humanity's brief intrusion into the eternal tide of time. Long before written records, before cities and empires as we know them, there existed whispers of a civilization older than memory. These traces are subtle, hidden beneath layers of time, like faint echoes traveling through the ocean's depths. They appear in impossible geometries on the ocean floor, in sonar scans that reveal structures too precise to be random. Columns rise where no mountain could exist. Walls trace patterns that define natural formation. Each discovery teases a question that may never be answered. This civilization does not announce itself. It is a soft murmur, a shadow beneath the waves, a memory, buried in stone and crystal. The shapes are alien yet familiar, as if the human mind remembers something it has long forgotten. Cities submerged, their streets flowing like river veins, towers piercing darkness, catching light that has not shone in millennia. They were builders of harmony, architects of the unseen, leaving markers not for us, but for the consciousness that would one day awaken to seek them. Even the land hints at their presence. Geoglyphs carved into ancient mountains, aligned with celestial bodies, tell stories in angles and lines. Temples buried under sand and clay encode wisdom in proportions and dimensions. a language of mathematics and resonance. In the rhythm of tides and wind, the first traces of symbolic communication emerge, whispers of a culture that understood the subtle currents of life itself. The oceans cradle secrets too delicate for surface eyes. Coral and mineral formations seem to follow deliberate patterns, guiding currents, reflecting light, as if preserving knowledge in organic architecture. Fossilized tools, crystalline devices, and objects resisted to time hint at mastery over materials and forces beyond our modern comprehension. Every artifact is both a question and an answer, challenging human perception and memory. We find remnants in unexpected places, caverns echoing with acoustic signatures, chambers carved with precision to channel sound, crystals that vibrate when touched, resonating with frequencies that shape water itself. These hints suggest a civilization not only advanced but attuned to the planet's natural rhythms, capable of harnessing energy hidden in stone, wave, and wind. Yet, certainty remains elusive. No written texts survive, no clear images, only fragments of a story, shadows on the ocean floor, labyrinthine ruins, and scattered relics all hint at knowledge lost before it could be recorded in ways we understand. Even the myths of humanity, the stories of sunken continents, great floods, and gods descending from the sea may be memories of this hidden civilization, refracted through the lens of imagination and time. Time itself has conspired to obscure their existence. Tectonic shifts, rising oceans, volcanic eruptions, and the slow march of sediment have buried cities and monuments, leaving only traces for those who know how to look. Modern technology grants glimpses. Sonar scans reveal walls, domes, and passageways. Deep-sea submersibles capture images of structures once thought impossible. Every new discovery deepens the mystery, hinting at a complexity that challenges the very notion of human history. Symbols emerge again and again, scattered across continents and oceans, repeating motifs, circles within circles, spirals, and interwoven lines. They appear in artifacts, in geological formations, even in the stars, suggesting an understanding that bridges land, sea, and sky. The civilizations seem to see the world as a single, interconnected entity, and encoded their wisdom in forms meant to endure beyond memory. And yet, questions persist. Who were they? Why did they vanish? Was their disappearance natural, or a consequence of knowledge too vast for their time? Perhaps the ocean itself chose to hold their secrets, a guardian of truths humanity is not yet ready to grasp. The deeper we dive, the more we realize that history is not a straight line, but a layered tapestry, with threads that fade into darkness, waiting to be rediscovered. As the ocean sways gently above these ruins, time slows. The water presses softly against every structure, every relic, preserving memory in liquid silence. The civilization's presence is felt in currents, in the pressure of the deep, in the faint resonance of sunken crystals vibrating with ancient energy. These are not just ruins, they are living echoes, waiting for attentive ears to hear the stories that have slept for millennia. And in this quiet, almost imperceptible world, the imagination begins to awaken. The mind drifts among sunken streets, long towers rising from the seabed, tracing corridors lined with symbols and carvings. The civilization is both familiar and alien, a reflection of human potential stretched across time and water. Each sonar ping, each flash of light in the abyss, is a heartbeat, a reminder that the past is never truly gone, only submerged, waiting to resurface in dreams, stories, and discovery. The ocean holds its breath. The civilization's whispers travel through the currents, touching distant lands, hinting at knowledge once known by few, perhaps forgotten by all. And as you float within this submerged world, the line between reality and myth blurs. The question remains, can humanity remember what was once lost? Or are these hints forever destined to remain just beyond reach? Faint glimmers of a truth too vast for mortal comprehension. Long before memory fractured, before civilizations were swallowed by the tides of time, there existed an era of light and resonance, a golden age, not recorded in textbooks, but whispered through currents, encoded in crystal, and inscribed in the song of the ocean. It was a time when this ancient civilization mastered the flow of energy, bending water, sound, and consciousness into harmonious symphonies. Every stone, every wave, and every breath seemed attuned to a grand design, an understanding of life as a living, breathing rhythm. Cities rose like coral forests, their towers carved with mathematical precision, their streets aligned with the movement of stars. Light itself was a language, refracted through prisms and water to convey knowledge, memory, and intent. Every shimmer, every reflection, a message left to endure beyond the lifespan of any one being. Their tools were instruments of resonance. Crystal arrays and metallic conduits amplified sound and energy, shaping currents and tides with subtle intention. Knowledge flowed like water, fluid yet structured, impossible to hold in mere words, only felt, experienced, remembered. The people of this era were not conquerors, but custodians. They understood balance, the interplay of light and shadow, air and water, mind and matter. Consciousness was cultivated as carefully as the oceans themselves. Meditation, music, and water manipulation were entwined into daily life. A glance at the horizon revealed more than the physical world. It revealed layers of time, currents of memory, and pathways of energy that few could perceive. Every act, every creation, resonated through the planet, leaving marks etched into stone, coral, and crystal that endured far beyond individual lifetimes. Technology and nature were inseparable. Devices shaped from crystalline matrices could store thought and intention, capturing fleeting insights and patterns of vibration and light. They were instruments of continuity, not destruction, tools that allowed knowledge to survive. Even if its custodians were gone, oceans became classrooms, tides the teachers, and currents the textbooks. Lessons were encoded not in text, but in resonance, the ebb and flow of water carrying wisdom across vast distances, imperceptible yet enduring. The civilization's understanding extended beyond the ocean. They charted stars, mapped the invisible lines of gravitational and magnetic forces, and perceived rhythms in planetary motion. Knowledge was not static but dynamic, a river that traveled through space and time. Sunken sanctuaries acted as both archives and resonant chambers, preserving sound and memory for those attuned to listen. Instruments captured the vibrations of the planet itself, its heartbeats, pulses, and whispers, and translated them into forms the mind could comprehend. Art and science were inseparable. Sculptures captured frequencies, paintings mirrored energy flows, architecture harmonized with ocean currents. Light and shadow danced across walls, not merely for beauty, but to encode information. Each structure was a library, each reflection a teacher, each vibration a story from the past. It was an age where the ocean itself spoke in a language humanity has nearly forgotten, yet still senses in dreams, in the sway of water, in the quiet rhythm of breathing. This golden age was luminous not only in knowledge but in philosophy. They questioned existence, explored consciousness, and meditated on the delicate balance of life and death. Morality and wisdom intertwined with science, energy and compassion flowed as one. Their society thrived on understanding rather than domination, exploration rather than exploitation. They recorded history in patterns of water, stone, and sound, ensuring that even if the physical forms of civilization were lost, the essence of their wisdom could endure. Music and sound were more than art, they were tools of resonance, capable of influencing water, consciousness, and even the flow of life itself. The hum of crystal arrays, the rhythm of tidal instruments, the echo of voices through sunken chambers, all were part of a symphony that harmonized mind, planet, and ocean. The golden age was not static, it was a living system, evolving, breathing, and remembering itself through each pulse of energy, each reflection of light, and each flow of water. Yet even in its brilliance, the civilization sensed fragility. They recorded warnings in vibrations and in stone, the consequences of imbalance, of hubris, of forgetting. These messages were layered within their creations, subtle but enduring, meant to guide future generations, like seeds scattered across the seabed. Their wisdom awaited those who would seek it, not merely with eyes, but with perception, patience, and a readiness to listen. The era of illumination, as radiant as it was also ephemeral. It thrived in harmony with the planet, but the slightest shift, oceanic upheaval, tectonic change, imbalance of energy threatened its continuity. And yet, in the Golden Age's final moments, the civilization took care to preserve its legacy. Sunken cities became memory vaults, crystals became time capsules, structures encoded with light, sound, and energy would survive, awaiting rediscovery. Knowledge itself became submerged, not destroyed, hidden in resonance and form, ready to be reawakened when the world was ready to hear. The Golden Age was an era of possibility, a testament to what can be achieved when consciousness, nature, and wisdom converge. It reminds us that knowledge is not merely accumulation, it is living, flowing, and enduring. Even now, beneath miles of ocean, echoes of this age vibrate softly, imperceptibly shaping currents, affecting life, and whispering to those who listen. As the ocean presses gently against the hulls of submersibles, As sonar pings illuminate long-buried halls, the golden age speaks not in words, but in resonance. Every ripple, every wave, every reflected beam of light carries the imprint of a civilization that understood the world as a whole, an integrated symphony of water, stone, light, and consciousness. It was a civilization that did not merely exist, but resonated, leaving behind traces of a knowledge that still waits for the curious and the patient. And in the stillness, as you float among these submerged memories, you begin to sense the unity of existence, the connection between past and present, human and ocean, thought and form. The Golden Age was a mirror, reflecting not only what was, but what might be again, if balance, reverence, and understanding can be remembered. Even in the brilliance of the Golden Age, a quiet tension lingered beneath the surface. The civilization that had mastered energy, sound, and consciousness could sense the delicate balance of their world. Every pulse, every wave, every crystalline note carried a warning. Fragile harmony could be undone by imbalance. And as centuries passed, the inevitable ripples of time began to press against the edges of their perfection. It was not war that heralded their fall. No armies clashed. No flames consumed their cities. Instead, the collapse was quiet, creeping, and inevitable, a slow unraveling of equilibrium. Oceans swelled beyond their known limits, tides twisting in unfamiliar patterns, currents carrying whispers of instability. The sky dimmed under clouds thick with ash and moisture, and the very air seemed heavier, saturated with the weight of time and consequence. Their instruments, once precise and harmonious, faltered as resonance became distorted, as energy no longer obeyed intention. The collapse was as much spiritual as it was physical. Communities that once thrived on understanding now struggled with uncertainty. The crystal matrices that stored memory and sound hummed with static, their once clear messages garbled by distortion. Knowledge that had flowed freely, like water through channels of stone and light, became fragmented, echoing faintly in sunken halls. Ancient warnings, once subtle, now rang as urgent pulses ignored, misunderstood, or too complex to decipher fully. The oceans themselves seemed to rebel. Submerged cities, meticulously constructed, were slowly claimed by the rising tide. Foundations shifted beneath crushing pressure. Halls that had once stored the essence of thought now filled with sediment and darkness. Currents that once carried encoded vibrations now swept them into the unknown, scattering memory like sand across the deep. Structures that had been aligned with stars lost their orientation as tectonic plates shifted, sunken temples crumbling into abyssal plains above the waters. Skies darkened and roiled. Storms raged with an intensity unknown to previous generations. Winds bending towers and breaking spires, rain saturating stone and crystal alike. Lightning etched patterns across the clouds, illuminating the fragility of even the most enduring creations. And as the elements shifted in chaotic patterns, the very rhythm of life wavered. Life forms that had been nurtured in harmony with the currents now struggled for survival. Ecosystems destabilizing as balance unraveled. Technology, once a manifestation of unity between mind and matter, failed. Instruments designed to harmonize energy became useless. Under the strain of nature's overwhelming force, resonance that had preserved knowledge was scattered, vibrations fading into silence. The civilization's memory, once flowing and coherent, began to fracture. Some records were lost forever, buried in the sediment of centuries. Others survived in fragments, crystals, stone carvings, encoded vibrations waiting for discovery by future generations patient enough to listen. Yet amidst the chaos, some sought to understand rather than resist. Scholars, custodians of wisdom, wandered through collapsing halls, deciphering fragments of resonance, capturing fading echoes in delicate instruments. They were witness to the end, yet also keepers of the memory of what had been. Their chants and songs, their attempts to harmonize with the disorder, became a form of meditation, a last effort to preserve what could not be held in physical form alone. The collapse was not sudden, but a slow, melancholic symphony of entropy. Time stretched like a tide, each day a note in an elegy that spanned centuries. Cities sank inch by inch, seas rose centimeter by centimeter, knowledge dissolved ripple by ripple. Even the sky seemed to mourn, casting a dim, golden twilight over oceans that had once reflected radiant sunlight. The civilization that had mastered harmony found itself unmoored, drifting in currents it could no longer control. And as the final generations faced this unraveling, a deep awareness settled. Nothing created by human or even advanced hands could withstand the vast, unyielding forces of nature and time without reverence. The collapse was a reminder, etched in stone, crystal, and water, that knowledge alone, was not enough. Understanding, humility, and attunement to the rhythms of the world were equally essential. From our perspective, looking back across the expanse of time, the collapse might seem tragic, catastrophic, absolute. Yet in the rhythm of oceans and the whisper of currents, one can sense a continuity, a memory that endures even when form is lost. The collapse scattered the civilization's essence across the planet, beneath waters, within crystals, and in the hidden patterns of nature itself. The wisdom was submerged, yes, but it was not destroyed. It waits, patient and silent, like seeds lying dormant beneath the cold, dark depths, awaiting the moment when the world is ready to listen again. And so, the Great Collapse, while marking the end of visible achievement, became the beginning of enduring mystery. The ocean, vast and timeless, claimed its keepers but preserved their echo. Knowledge, once fluid and radiant, became buried in sediment and resonance, carried in deep currents, encoded in stone, awaiting rediscovery. The civilization may have vanished from the surface, but its heartbeat continues beneath the waves, a silent pulse in the memory of the planet itself. In this unfolding of loss, the abyss was revealed not as emptiness, but as a vast archive, a reminder that even in endings, continuity persists. The collapse teaches patience, humility, and the art of listening. The ocean absorbs the echo of civilizations long gone, storing them in ways that only the observant, the patient, the sensitive, and the reverent might ever perceive. In the slow decay of structures and the scattering of knowledge, the essence of the Golden Age survived, waiting to whisper to those who would approach the depths with curiosity and care. Beneath the rolling waves, beneath the lightless depths, the civilization's wisdom lay in silent vigil. The ocean became both grave and archive, a repository of memory that no surface eye could perceive. Sunken cities rested on the abyssal plains, their spires fractured, streets choked with sand, yet still resonating faint echoes of a forgotten time. Crystals, carved with precision and vibrating with encoded information, hummed softly beneath layers of sediment, their songs lost to casual observation, preserved only for those patient enough to listen. Pressure became memory. Every mile of water above carried weight, pressing on stone, crystal, and metal alike. It was not destruction but transformation, knowledge reshaping itself to survive. Fossilized light, crystallized sound, and mineralized thought stored the essence of consciousness in forms resistant to decay. The ocean, indifferent yet tender, held these treasures in its vast, liquid embrace. Currents carried fragments from one place to another, like whispers migrating through corridors of darkness, linking remnants across unimaginable distances. In the murky depths, structures aligned with celestial patterns still reflected their creator's intent. Temples, observatories, and communal halls were designed not merely as dwellings, but as instruments of understanding, their stones tuned to vibrations of planets, moons, and stars. Even submerged, these geometries conveyed a subtle language or resonance that hinted at the civilization's mastery of harmony between matter, energy, and consciousness. Light, scarce and precious, filtered down from above only to scatter across fractured crystal and sediment. In these moments, hidden inscriptions became visible, shimmering briefly before being swallowed again by darkness. Every fragment told a story of discovery, of mastery, of warning. Some inscriptions described tides not yet experienced, oceans rising centuries after they were recorded. Others spoke of sound as energy, vibration as memory, and consciousness as a medium that transcended the fragile body. Time, as we understand it, had little meaning here. Centuries merged into millennia. Knowledge, buried beneath pressure and water, continued to exist in altered forms. Currents carried information like arteries, flowing unseen, connecting relics separated by hundreds of miles. A pattern emerged. For those who could perceive it, the ocean was alive not just in movement, but in memory. It remembered every collapse, every triumph, every echo of life it had witnessed. The abyssal plains themselves acted as guardians. Trenches, mountains, and ridges shielded sunken archives from the disturbances of the upper world. Only specialized flows of water, temperature gradients, and subtle currents could reach these repositories. Each movement, each gentle current, played a role in preserving resonance, a natural encoding of time and memory. Even in chaos, there was order. Even in darkness, there was guidance. The memory preserved in water and stone was not static. It adapted to its environment. Vibrations once created in air became mineralized. Light captured in crystals endured. Under immense pressure, fossilized echoes of thought, encoded in sediment layers, became readable only through patient interpretation like melodies frozen mid-song. Awaiting revival, the ocean did not merely store knowledge, it transformed it, preparing it for a future civilization capable of understanding its depth. Ancient warnings, once etched into visible monuments, now lay submerged and dispersed. Their voices, no longer audible to the surface, traveled in subtle oscillations, waiting for the right observer. Symbols repeated in hidden patterns, spirals of stone, lattices of crystal, networks of tunnels. Each pattern reinforced the memory, creating redundancy across distances that made loss nearly impossible. Even if cities collapsed, even if continents shifted, the essence survived in pressure, vibration, and resonance. Life in the deep, unknowable and alien, coexisted with this submerged knowledge. Creatures, adapted to darkness and immense pressure, brushed past artifacts and structures without disturbing the delicate harmony. Their movements, slow and deliberate, became part of the environment's rhythm, adding an organic layer to the archive. The ocean's memory was alive not only in stone and crystal, but in every living organism navigating its depths. Above the abyss, human understanding faltered. Sonar maps revealed shapes and shadows, yet interpretation remained elusive. Explorers glimpsed ruins, strange geometries, and anomalous readings. But the essence of the knowledge lay beyond instruments, requiring intuition, patience, and reverence. To access what was preserved beneath the waves demanded not brute force, not technology alone, but a listening mind, a consciousness attuned to the subtle language of the deep. The ocean, timeless and patient, held a promise. Though civilizations rise and fall, though empires collapse and crumble, knowledge endures. Like seeds buried in fertile soil, it waits, carrying the blueprint of understanding to those who would seek it carefully. Each echo, each vibration, each faint shimmer of light is a bridge between eras, a reminder that the abyss is not empty but vibrant, alive with the memory of what has been. Here, in the crushing silence of the deep, one might understand the paradox of loss. To preserve, one must relinquish form. To endure, one must surrender visibility. The civilization's greatest lesson is hidden in the weight of the water above and the stillness of the currents below. Truth persists even when unseen. Wisdom survives even when forgotten, and memory adapts even when buried. And so, the ocean continues its vigil, patiently holding the echoes of a civilization long gone, a silent library of light, sound, and stone. It whispers through currents, sings in crystal, hums in the pressure, awaiting the moment when the world above will once again pause, listen, and learn. The abyss is not just a grave, it is a living archive, a bridge across time, a reminder that some knowledge is meant to be discovered slowly, reverently, and in harmony with the pulse of the deep. Across the world, myths emerge like fragments of a single submerged memory. Atlantis, Lemuria, the Great Flood, serpent gods, Absol guardians. These are not mere stories, but echoes of truths encoded in collective imagination. Cultures separated by oceans and continents speak of similar symbols, circles within circles, serpentine spirals, and sunken cities beneath water. Patterns repeat with uncanny precision, as if consciousness itself remembered what history forgot. Each symbol carries a warning. Serpent-like motifs remind humanity of cycles, of creation and destruction intertwined. Spiral geometries hint at energy, motion, and the eternal return. The Great Flood stories, appearing in cultures from Sumeria to the Americas, speak not only of rising waters, but of imbalance, of hubris meeting the inevitable response of the earth. Symbols act as bridges across time, linking civilizations that have no shared history yet share common intuition. The abyss is filled with guardians, some imagined, some encoded into the landscape itself. Coral reefs, labyrinthine trenches, and towering cliffs of stone mirror the motifs repeated across human lore. Even in dreams, these shapes reappear, suggesting that consciousness itself may carry traces of ancient knowledge. Myths are not merely tales for children, they are warnings, invitations, puzzles waiting to be solved. They carry rhythm, cadence, and pattern, echoing the very pulse of the deep ocean. Legends of lost civilizations, sunken kingdoms, and hidden treasures are more than adventure, they are metaphors for memories submerged under pressure, obscured by time and tides. The stories whisper of those who once mastered the seas, understanding its currents, rhythms, and energies. They speak of harmony, of alignment with nature, of reverence for forces greater than oneself. When forgotten, these lessons transform into cautionary tales, disguised as myth, urging humanity to notice before it repeats the mistakes of the past. Symbols are everywhere, hidden in plain sight, Stone carvings, fossilized shells, ancient maps, and even architecture reflect echoes of these warnings. Repetition across cultures hints at a common origin, a civilization whose knowledge survived, not through texts or monuments, but through resonance and story. Each myth is a living fragment, a note in a symphony that continues to vibrate across generations. Ancient warnings were encoded as much in experience as in symbol. Journeys across the seas, encounters with natural phenomena, and the observation of celestial events became stories of reverence and caution. They taught respect for forces beyond human control and humility before the vast unknown. In these lessons, the abyss itself becomes both teacher and protector, shaping consciousness to survive, adapt, and perceive the imperceptible. The ocean is both mirror and memory. It reflects human curiosity, ambition, and folly, while preserving lessons in every wave, every current, every shadow beneath the surface. Myths act as beacons, guiding the listener to recognize cycles repeating across time. The serpent that rises from the deep may represent chaos, but also wisdom, transformation, and renewal. The flood that swallows cities warns of imbalance, but also offers the possibility of rebirth. Even modern interpretations carry the same echoes. Symbols appear in art, literature, and science, suggesting that the pulse of ancient understanding continues to influence contemporary thought. Every recurring pattern in mythology is a breadcrumb, leading toward comprehension of truths hidden beneath oceans, mountains, and memories. Some are literal, some metaphorical, yet all point to the same core principle. Knowledge must be approached with reverence, observation, and patience. The collective memory encoded in myth is a warning and a promise. It warns of arrogance, imbalance, and forgetting. It promises that, if we attune ourselves, we may reconnect with wisdom that has endured millennia. Every myth, every symbol, every whispered legend carries a trace of the ocean's voice, reminding humanity that what lies beneath is alive, aware, and waiting for those who can listen. These stories are invitations to pause. They urge reflection upon the cycles of rise and fall, the interplay of hubris and humility, and the enduring rhythm of the deep. Myths are not confined to books or films. They live in water, stone, and consciousness itself. They ripple across generations, offering guidance to those willing to perceive and follow their subtle pulse. And so, the abyss whispers again, through the symbols, through the myths, through the faint resonance of forgotten civilizations. It is not merely legend, it is memory, encoded, alive, and patient. Those who heed it may glimpse the harmony once known, the wisdom submerged beneath oceans, and the warnings carried through time, awaiting recognition. Section 8. Human Arrogance versus Ancient Wisdom. Extended approximately 1,000 words. Humanity has always sought dominion over the natural world, stretching its hands to grasp what cannot fully be contained. The rivers, mountains, and oceans that once whispered their own rhythms now bow to human ambition. Yet their silence is not submission, it is observation, a patient witness to choices and consequences. Ancient wisdom, encoded in myths, symbols, and forgotten civilizations, once guided humanity toward balance, reverence, and attunement with nature. Today, those teachings lie buried beneath ambition, overlooked in the pursuit of progress, convenience, and control. We have built cities that scrape the skies, machines that reshape landscapes, and technologies that peer into the smallest particle and the farthest star. But each achievement carries a shadow, each conquest a reminder of hubris. The very ocean that nurtures life also mirrors our arrogance. Its tides respond to forces beyond our control. Its depths conceal ancient knowledge, and its storms remind us of the limits we cannot surpass. Humanity's arrogance is measured not in malice, but in forgetting that the earth is alive, that memory exists beyond paper and stone, and that wisdom is often submerged, silent, and patient. Ancient civilizations understood cycles, the rise and fall of empires, the interplay of climate, the delicate dance between creation and destruction. They respected forces that humans today label as resources to exploit, obstacles to overcome, or energies to manipulate. Their knowledge was fluid, transmitted through ritual, myth, observation, and encoded in stone and water alike. In their reverence, they knew that every imbalance would be mirrored in consequences: storms, floods, scarcity, collapse. Modern humanity mirrors these ancient mistakes. We extract without reverence, manipulate without understanding, and advance without humility. Forests fall, oceans warm, species vanish, and yet the pulse of memory beneath the earth remains watching, waiting. The arrogance of believing ourselves separate from nature blinds us to the continuity of time, to the lessons hidden in tides, tectonics, and the deep sea. Every act of extraction, every decision to dominate, echoes past errors, repeating cycles. Older than our written history. Yet, the ocean remembers. It does not judge, but it carries the imprint of imbalance. Coastal cities face rising seas. Weather patterns intensify, and ecosystems falter under human interference. These are not coincidences, they are the slow, inevitable feedback of a planet responding to its inhabitants. Ancient wisdom warned of this. Encoded in myths of floods, serpents, and Absol guardians, their warnings were not allegorical, they were instructions for survival, guidance for coexistence, and reminders of respect. Arrogance blinds the eyes to subtlety. Ancient wisdom taught that energy flows, that life is interconnected, that actions reverberate beyond immediate perception. Humans, however, often perceive only immediate gain, forgetting the unseen threads linking actions to consequences. Technology amplifies this hubris, creating illusions of control while masking the fragile balance of life and the deep memory of the earth. Every advancement carries the potential for both creation and destruction. Humanity must choose which path to follow. In this contrast between arrogance and wisdom, the abyss serves as both metaphor and reality. It is a living reminder of humility, patience, and endurance. The ocean, the tectonic plates, and the deep trenches are repositories of knowledge, waiting for humans willing to listen. Arrogance blinds us to these lessons, while humility opens perception to subtle guidance, rhythms, and the whispers of ancient intelligence. The ancient civilizations' mistakes were not failures of ingenuity, they were failures of respect. Modern society risks the same. By ignoring the symbols, myths, and encoded warnings, humanity repeats cycles of imbalance. The earth responds not with vengeance, but with consequence. Rising seas, vanishing species, and shifting climates are not punishments, they are feedback, reflections of human choices amplified over time. Wisdom requires patience. It requires observation, attunement, and the willingness to understand forces greater than oneself. Arrogance demands immediate results, domination, and certainty. The tension between these approaches defines human existence and determines the trajectory of civilizations. Those who listen to the ocean, to the myths, to the subtle memory of the earth, may find alignment with the deep currents of time. Those who ignore it risk isolation, repetition, and decay. Ancient knowledge was never lost completely. It exists in echoes, in myths, in symbols, and in the very waters of the abyss. To honor it requires humility, reflection, and reverence. To ignore it is to gamble with forces older than humanity. To act as if memory does not persist, as if the deep and the long cycles of life are irrelevant. The choice is subtle but profound: arrogance or wisdom, forgetting or remembering, domination or coexistence. And so, as humanity gazes across the oceans, drills into the earth, and charts the stars, the abyss whispers once again. It reminds that arrogance blinds, but wisdom awakens, that ancient memory endures, and that balance is not given, it is earned. Those willing to perceive, to pause, and to listen may glimpse the threads connecting past, present, and future. Those unwilling may find themselves adrift, repeating cycles carved into the deep waters, the mountains, and the very bones of the earth. The tension is eternal. Humanity stands between hubris and enlightenment, between repetition and learning. The abyss waits, patient and silent, carrying both warning and invitation. To understand is to align with time, with nature, with memory. To ignore is to drift further into consequences, guided by ambition alone, untethered from wisdom. The present world mirrors the echoes of a past long forgotten. Rising seas lap at coastlines, their waves carrying subtle whispers of civilizations that succumb to imbalance. Forests vanish, species disappear, and oceans warm not in isolation, but as part of a continuum that has existed since time immemorial. Humanity is not the first to face the delicate tension between mastery and reverence. It is merely the latest participant in a story that stretches back beyond recorded memory. The ancient world's collapse is reflected in our own subtle repetition, a pattern unfolding slowly, patiently, like the slow tides of the abyss. Yet the earth remembers. Beneath the shifting tectonic plates, the sleeping magma, and the currents of the deep oceans, memory persists. Fossils, minerals, and water bear witness to eons of change. The planet itself breathes, its deep heart pulsing with experiences collected over billions of years. Each eruption, each tide, each whisper of wind carries knowledge beyond human reckoning. To attune to this memory is not to control it, but to perceive it, to listen with the patience of stone, the stillness of the deep, and the subtle rhythm of the tides. Humanity stands at a crossroads, though not in urgency but in inevitability. The path ahead diverges in subtle, yet profound ways. One route is domination, extraction without reverence, consumption without reflection, progression without wisdom. It is a path that repeats ancient errors, inviting imbalance and consequence. The other path is coexistence, understanding the threads that connect life, acknowledging the depth of memory that resides beneath oceans and mountains, and walking lightly upon the earth with humility and insight. Each choice carries weight, though the future remains unresolved, a question floating in currents unseen. Symbols and myths arise as reminders of these choices. Stories of floods, serpents, guardians of the abyss, and sunken cities are not merely tales, they are encoded memory, warnings, and guidance from those who came before. When the same images appear across cultures, continents, and eras, it is no coincidence. It is a signal that wisdom, though buried, persists. To ignore these messages is to turn away from memory itself. To engage with them is to awaken perception, attuning to a truth that flows beneath the surface of time. Modern society struggles to perceive the subtle rhythms of the earth. We measure in metrics, map in lines, and chart in numbers, yet the planet's consciousness is fluid, cyclical, and slow to reveal itself. Oceans rise not as mere data points, but as living archives of imbalance. Forests fall not as statistics, but as echoes of ancient knowledge buried in the soil. The air itself carries the weight of centuries, layers of memory, and the consequences of our own decisions. Each human action resonates, ripples through time, and interacts with forces far older than ourselves. In the sleeping memory of the earth, there is patience. Time is not linear, it folds, stretches, and compresses. Like currents in the abyss, memory sleeps, but it is never gone. Beneath layers of sediment, beneath the pressure of deep waters, beneath the shifting continents, the earth retains the experiences of ages past. Humanity may not see it, may not measure it, may not acknowledge it, but it is there, waiting for those who choose to listen, to perceive, and to honor. Choice is subtle, yet monumental. Domination leads to repetition, imbalance, and eventual consequence. Coexistence leads to attunement, insight, and alignment with the deep currents of life. Forgetting is easy, remembering requires courage, patience, and humility. Extraction is immediate, understanding is gradual. Humanity has the opportunity to align with wisdom, to perceive memory in water, stone, and wind, and to act in harmony with forces older than recorded history. And yet, even as the planet turns silently beneath us, humanity is capable of reflection, empathy, and alignment. We are participants in this story, not merely spectators. Our lives, decisions, and actions are threads in a vast tapestry of existence. We are born from the abyss, formed from atoms forged in stars, our consciousness intertwined with the tides, the currents, and the slow heartbeat of Earth itself. Recognizing this connection is the first step toward wisdom, the subtle awakening that bridges past, present, and future. The ocean, the mountains, the forests, they all speak in a language older than words. They whisper of cycles, of memory, of lessons encoded in matter, energy, and time. To listen is to become part of a continuum. To ignore is to drift further from understanding. Ancient civilizations, lost beneath the oceans, left clues for those willing to perceive. Their rise and fall, their mastery and mistakes, mirror our own potential paths. The abyss holds these lessons, patient, silent, waiting for perception to awaken. As night deepens and the mind relaxes, the reflection of human choices against the canvas of Earth's memory becomes a meditation. Each wave, each current, each wind through the trees is a reminder of alignment or imbalance. The choices are subtle yet profound, echoing across scales of time and space. Awareness is the gift, and action is the responsibility. The path toward coexistence requires listening deeply, understanding slowly, and acting with reverence. Finally, the listener is gently returned to the present. The abyss closes its doors, but its memory persists. The deep sea, the shifting continents, and the sleeping earth remain alive with knowledge, wisdom, and caution. We are not separate from the deep. We are born from it, composed of its elements, attuned to its rhythms, and participants in its story. The atoms in our bodies, the water in our veins, the thoughts in our minds, they all trace lineage to ancient forces, to forgotten civilizations, to memory that sleeps beneath layers of time and ocean. Tonight, as we rest, the planet continues its silent work. Oceans flow, plates shift, stars illuminate, and memory endures. The listener drifts in the gentle current of reflection, cradled by the awareness that humanity is part of a continuum far larger than immediate perception. The abyss is not a place of fear, it is a reminder, a teacher, a living archive of knowledge, waiting to be heard, if only we pause and listen. Sleep now gently. Drift through the tides of memory, through currents that span millennia, through the quiet echoes of civilizations past. The story continues beyond perception, yet in this moment, the listener rests within it, entwined with the depth, aligned with the quiet heartbeat of the world. And in that rest, the wisdom of the abyss hums softly, as constant and eternal as the oceans themselves.